Whenever there is greatness, there is also adversity. When we work, there will be obstacles. Vincenzo's obstacle came when he turned 17. One day, as he was walking to his teacher's to practice his violin, he found that his vision began to blur. Soon, there were great dark spots appearing before his eyes. And one day, he woke up totally blind. He could not see. This proved to be a big adversity.
On March 10, 1981, I thought I had the world by the tail. I was Mr. Egotistical. I was self-centered. I was center of the whole universe, and so I thought. I was very successful. I'd gone into the life insurance business, making a lot of money. Had a nice home, had a nice car, had a wife. You know, I was living the American dream, and so I thought. And then I went and bought myself an airplane. The next day I took off in that airplane for a little pleasure trip just to check it out. Then in that day my whole life changed. I had a power failure. When I was landing, the engine failed. I had some power lines and crashed.
I was just entering my senior year and I wasn't really going out much. We had moved to a new town and I was feeling a bit awkward in my skin. I went out and I met someone. I thought, oh, he's the one, and ended up pregnant in my senior year. And if you want to be judged, I was going into a school where there were nuns, and they were convinced, and so was my entire school system, that found out I was pregnant in my senior year, that I was going to go to someplace with the letter H and 3 letters that followed. And it took me a long time to regain my self-esteem. And so my life started out as a pregnant teenage runaway.
When I was born, my parents didn't know that I was didn't think that I was going to be a little person, of course. So that was a big surprise. And they had some difficulty with it, some challenges with it. Then I went off to school, and I had challenges with kids there, teasing me, calling me names, stuff like that.
4 days later, I woke up in the hospital. I was in coma 4 days, and I was in bad shape. My neck was broken at the first and second cervical vertebrae, and my spinal cord was crushed. The nerves that control my diaphragm were destroyed, and I couldn't breathe. My swallowing through flesh was destroyed, and I couldn't eat or drink. My larynx and voice box were crushed. Every muscle in my body was destroyed. I couldn't do anything but blink my eyes. My bowel, blood, and kidneys didn't have function. I lay there for 8 months in that hospital. All I could do was blink my eyes. The doctor said it was hopeless.
I prayed that I could learn something through this experience, and maybe one day I could help others through it. Well, I gave birth to a little baby girl, and I kept that little baby girl for 5 months. And it was a tough 5 months. It was a tough road to hoe. I worked 3 jobs, and I couldn't really make my ends meet. One day I made a decision to place her for adoption. And when I did that, and the lady came and took her away and drove away with my baby, I thought I was the worst sinner on planet Earth. And it took a long time for me to regain self-esteem and to come to know myself, that I was a valuable person and I was a valuable part of this society.
And in 4th grade, a turning point came for me, one of the first ones, when I realized that being a little person wasn't something that, wasn't a costume that I could take off one day, that actually I was going to be a little person for the rest of my life. And my friends were now at least 1.5 to 2 feet taller than me. I wasn't just the short kids in the class. I was now significantly different.
8 months later, I walked out of the hospital on my own 2 feet. The doctor said it was impossible, but I walked out of there. But that wasn't the end of the journey. That was just the beginning, because I had 5 more years of intense occupational physical therapy.
So I went to work. And when I went to work, I decided I was going to make something of myself. And maybe one day I'd see that little girl again, and maybe I'd be able to be an example, a living example of something wonderful.
One day I was sitting with my teacher for spiritual and personal growth, and he said to me, you know, Peggy, I noticed that you spend a lot of time in this fantasy that one day you're going to wake up like an average-sized person, or as an average-sized person, and all your problems are going to be gone. But that's not really so realistic. And I bet your success level would be much higher if instead you focus on the things that you can change. The things like your attitude, your beliefs, your connection to spirit, all those kinds of things. So that was a turning point for me, and I actually looked at that and I was like, oh my God, I'm believing in this fantasy. And I had to come to terms with the fact that I had to accept that I couldn't change my outer size, but I saw that I could change my inner size.
See, it didn't matter what the doctors thought. It didn't matter what the medical profession thought. It didn't matter what other people thought or believed. What really mattered was what I believed. See, a lot of people think, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, because everybody tells them they can't do that. And I tell them it doesn't matter what other people tell them, it matters what they think.
Well, last year on Mother's Day, now we're talking 27 years after that day when that lady drove away with that baby, I got a call from guess who? My little daughter, Jackie. And she said on the telephone, could I call you Mom? That was huge. That was huge for me. And I don't care what happened to you in your life. Someone told you you're a sinner and you're so down and out that you think you're nothing and you're a nobody. You're somebody. You find it within yourself and you get up. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And you get out there and do good works. Jackie and I have become real good friends today. And I thank God she's a valuable part of this life. You know, I barely finished high school. Today I sat on the Harvard Women's Leadership Board.
Were the times I was down, were the times that maybe the vision started to fade a little bit, you know, I'd be dishonest if I said they weren't. Of course there were times. But I didn't stay focused on that very long. See, it's okay to let yourself get down, but it's not okay to stay down.
I have gone from the depths of darkness to the height of amazing, amazing joy and even ecstasy. I always say that I used to cry every day out of sadness. Now I cry most days out of joy.
Vincenzo continued to practice his instrument. But it was much harder now. The music didn't come as easily. Often the notes didn't sound right. Often the people near him told him he was failing. He began to feel like he was failing.
I can't.
Vincenzo had given up. He felt like he had been robbed of the gift he had been given. His heart ached as he approached the entrance to the merchant's store.
Hi, Vincenzo. What a surprise. What brings you here?
I'd like to sell my violin.
Those were the most painful words that he had ever spoken.
Are you certain about that? Well, let's have a look, shall we? Oh my. Isn't this the same violin I sold you many years ago? And you want to bring it back to me?
Yes, I do.
Well, I'm certain you've kept it in fine condition. But I really have to know that it works. So, would you do me a small favor, Vincenzo?
What's that?
I wonder if you would play a little bit for me, Vincenzo.
I don't have my music with me.
Sometimes we don't need sheet music. Sometimes music is in the soul. So,